In 2045, Earth stands as a war-torn wasteland, humanity pushed to the edge against abominations born to exterminate them. The conflict is merciless. Troops crumble under the relentless advance, bodies falling in the frenzy of violence. Ruins sprawl across the battleground. Above the few survivors towers an immense beast, its eyes blazing crimson. A frightened young soldier freezes as one of its barbed tendrils aims straight at him and shoots forward. Before it strikes, a blade tears through the appendage, severing it in a clean flash and sparing the soldier. The monster bellows in pain. The savior, a hardened man wearing a military cap, throws himself into a vicious counterattack, shredding the monster's limbs with swift strikes. He dodges retaliation with practiced ease, draws a sidearm, and unloads bullets into the creature until it collapses. Once the threat is down, he orders the shaken soldier to rise. This man is Han Sung, supreme commander of humanity's final defensive force. The war has drained the world for decades, leaving only a handful able to fight. To him, the end of this nightmare feels close, and he readies a glowing device meant to secure victory. But a radiant golden circle suddenly manifests beneath him. In a burst of blinding light, he disappears, his rifle clattering to the ground. The soldier he saved can only call his leader's name in stunned disbelief. Han Sung reappears elsewhere, an abyssal realm chained by radiant bindings. Cloaked figures surround him, stunned that their ritual to summon a hero from another world succeeded. He struggles, confused and furious. An aged figure steps forward, greeting him and declaring that this realm needs him to crush the Demon King and rescue their land. Rage burns in Han Sung's voice as he demands answers, insisting he should be in Korea, not in some unknown dimension. The old man lifts a hand. A binding curse snaps tighter around Han Sung, flooding him with searing torment. His screams echo. The elder calmly explains that obedience ensures safety, then repeats the demand, defeat the Demon King. Only then, perhaps, they might send him back to his world. With a chilling, expectant stare, the elder asks for compliance. Trapped and racked by pain, Han Sung glares back, helpless and unwilling. With no other path, he gives in. Dragged into an alien world, he becomes the Empire's chosen weapon. His new existence turns into a brutal loop. Training, bleeding, fighting, never allowed to stop. 10 years pass like a grinding blade against bone. Task after task, battlefield after battlefield, until at last he slays the Demon King, Val Roar. Each night for that decade, he clung to the dream of going home. Finally, he believed freedom was within reach. Then, the Elder's verdict crushes him. The Empire's salvation is not finished. A new command is issued without remorse, and his long-awaited return is ripped away once more. Dissidents who resisted the Empire's unification still had to be wiped out. Their next mark was a man called Bottle. The old man swore that killing him would buy Han Sung his freedom, and the oath flared around the enraged, bound hero once more. Trapped and furious, Han Sung thought like a chained dog. Choices taken, paths decided for him. He spat curses at the men who'd made him a slave and braced for another fight. The scene shifted to the ruined Teutonia Night Kingdom, where Han Sung faced Bottle in brutal combat and finally cut him down. The dying knight called Han Sung a fool for serving the Empire. Remorse gnawed at Han Sung, who could only claim he had no choice. Blood stained Bottle's mouth as he offered a grim smile and warned that the Empire would soon throw Han Sung away too. Han Sung believed the job was done and that he would at last return home. But Count Brandenburg appeared and drove a sword into Han Sung's back, coldly applauding the deed. Gasping, Han Sung recognized his betrayer. Brandenburg taunted him for acting like the Empire's hunting dog. Breathing fast, Han Sung understood the promise of freedom had been a lie. Brandenburg sneered that they would never let him go and twisted the blade in deeper, declaring a hunting dog's only skill was biting. He turned away as Han Sung collapsed. As life leaked out, Han Sung cursed their treachery. With his final breath, he swore he would remember the shame and make the damned Empire pay with total ruin. At that instant, a sharp blue light burst from his chest. That night, one life ended and another began. He woke as a newborn, cradled by a beautiful woman who claimed to be his mother. Behind her stood a long-haired man. The reborn Han Sung felt a strange familiarity. He realized the man was Duke Saxon, the continent's greatest necromancer. It hit him. He had been reborn in Necropolis, the Empire's center of forbidden magic. A notice confirmed the Stone of Reincarnation had activated successfully. He reviewed the plan in his mind. The stone of reincarnation was a banned relic, a last-ditch gamble to steal freedom. The new body had been left to fate. Luck had fallen his way. He was now the firstborn of the Saxon ducal line, one of the empire's top noble houses. A private smile formed. He'd been born with a golden spoon. That fortune only fueled his thirst for revenge. He vowed that once he grew and mastered necromancy, he would exterminate every last bastard in the empire who had betrayed him. For now, his new parents worried because the baby would not cry. The Duchess, arms wrapped around the infant, turns to the nanny with a worried tone, questioning the silence. The nanny, puzzled but calm, notes that his breathing is steady, and there's no sign of distress. Duke Saxon mutters his unease, claiming a child who doesn't cry might be a bad sign. The nanny brushes off the concern, then casually suggests making him cry by striking his backside. Without hesitation, she swats the newborn. Fury flares inside Han Sung's tiny body, yet he refuses to make a sound. Both parents watch the stubborn silence, a faint amusement in their eyes as the Duchess remarks that the baby must have inherited the Duke's iron will. She gathers the child gently, stating she will try instead. Her hand lifts, but instead of pain, he is met with a warm, soft pat. That simple touch hits him like a shock. A lifetime of bloodshed, fear, and duty rushes back. Years spent fighting, always wounded, never resting, no tenderness, no softness. He tries to remember the last time he felt something like this, and fails. This hand trembles slightly, filled with quiet affection he has not known in ages. The warmth breaks through the armor around his heart. Han Sung, who hadn't shed tears since childhood, feels the dam crack. Under his parents' stunned stares, he finally lets out a raw, loud cry, an unmistakable wail of a newborn. 8 years slip by since his rebirth as Dale Saxon. In their chamber, Duke Alan Saxon and the Duchess remark on how quickly time has passed. She notes that since age 4, Dale has rarely separated himself from his books. He smiles, and she softly suggests the boy inherited that habit from him. The Duke admits their son has a keen interest in magic, but the Duchess grows stern, reminding him of the vow never to teach Dale necromancy. Meanwhile, in the Grand Library, young Dale, vessel of Han Sung, remains buried in studies. Back in the bedroom, the Duchess relaxes as Alan assures her he hasn't forgotten his promise, adding that he has prepared a special birthday gift for Dale. Suddenly, pounding at the door breaks the moment. A frantic maid bursts in, breathless, announcing that something has happened to Dale. The couple races through the corridor, calling their son's name with panic in their voice. They burst into the study to find him collapsed, surrounded by a burst of blue mana. The Duchess drops beside him, shaking, checking for wounds. Dale, dazed but conscious, insists he's fine. Duke Saxon remains silent for a moment, shock in his eyes. His son has already unleashed such strong mana. Despite the Duchess's alarm, Dale instinctively pulls away as the Duke approaches. The father looms over him, voice heavy, asking whether he just released mana. Inside, Han Sung curses himself. Revealing power this early was a mistake. Then everything shifts. The Duke's stern face cracks into pride. He rests a heavy hand on the boy's head and praises him, satisfied. Exactly what he expected from his son. He remarks that it is unfortunate he cannot personally train Dale in necromancy. Those words send a fresh wave of anxiety through Dale. If even the strongest necromancer on the continent refuses him, how is he supposed to carry out his revenge? His mother gently pats his head and sends him back to his room. As he heads off, he hears his father Helmet watches quietly, mind racing. These are children, yet their intent to kill feels frighteningly real. Their speed beyond ordinary trainees. The tempo rises, steel flickers, steps blur. Then Dale makes a sly move, grabbing his cloak to hide his sword angle. Charlotte reacts late, fury spiking. She thrusts, but Helmet appears in a blur, catching her wrist inches before her blade reaches Dale's face. He calmly praises them both. Charlotte scoffs at the compliment and demands to know where she's lacking. Helmet asks if she understands a rapier's core principle. She answers thrusting. Helmet answers bluntly, wrong. Its true core is footwork. He breaks down the final exchange. Dale sidestepped and closed distance. That was the moment for her to retreat and reset her line, not force a strike. She lost not in strength or spirit, but in movement. Helmet goes on, explaining that the more she stretches and retracts her arm with a rapier, the more the blade wobbles, ruining accuracy and dulling her thrust. Finally, with a hard stare, he delivers his verdict. She needs to rebuild her fundamentals from scratch. Charlotte freezes, cheeks burning with shock and resentment. Helmet doesn't let up. Her posture and footwork are sloppy. Charlotte fires back, saying she never had a real teacher. Helmet replies that she does now, and he plans to fix her bizarre stance immediately. Charlotte erupts in outrage, while Dale hurriedly tries to calm her. Helmet just laughs, saying she looked adorable when angry, making her even more furious. While they argue, Dale's mind turns serious. He watches Charlotte's raw potential, knowing she'll develop frighteningly fast under a true swordmaster. If he doesn't keep advancing, she will catch up and surpass him. The scene shifts to his magic training. Constructing mana circles is normally a grueling, decades-long process, but Dale is progressing at a pace that defies belief. Sophia stares at him, incredulous, asking if he's already finished forming his second circle. He answers yes. Circle strength is measured in RPM. A normal first circle mage sits around 300 RPM. Dale's first circle runs at 2,000. His second is already spinning at 400. And with the minimum requirement for starting a third being 300, he can already move forward. Deciding to experiment, he turns to his signature spell, Ice Bullet. He reworks the formula. Tighter molecular density for weight and durability. Magical barrel projection for spin and acceleration. Once finished, he targets a tree and fires his new creation. Ice Bullet, armor-piercing round. The spell detonates across the clearing, tree, roots, and earth obliterated in a violent burst of freezing force. A crater smokes before them. Sophia stares at the destruction, stunned, trying to process what just happened. Dale quietly evaluates the result. The power boost from an additional circle is enormous. Sophia's expression softens into pride. She praises him warmly, astonished by how quickly he grasps new magic. Dale modestly credits her guidance. Her eyes soften as she studies him. She recalls him saving a knight, guiding Charlotte, and acting with restraint even when powerful. He doesn't simply grow stronger, he uses his strength with purpose. She confesses that his power unsettles her at times, yet it only deepens her trust in him. Swept by pride, Sophia suddenly wraps him in a warm embrace, declaring he truly is her most cherished student. Dale freezes, face burning red. Inside, the older mind behind his young body spirals, utterly unprepared for this kind of affection, silently cursing the awkwardness. At sunrise, Dale stands alone in the snowy courtyard, still rattled by that hug. He mutters that she startled him, and wonders if she really just sees him as a child. He forces the thought away and refocuses on training. He summons a large, jagged ice wall as a target. Then he crafts a spell variant, a shotgun-style projectile. Ice Bullet, 12-gauge 00 buckshot. He fires. The ice round bursts mid-flight into dozens of sharp shards that shred the wall. Shards ricochet back. He calmly conjures a hexagonal barrier and deflects them. Satisfied, he mentally notes to try making a slug variant next. A voice interrupts. He turns to see Charlotte emerging from the snowy tree line. She says she finally found where he's been hiding to practice. He asks whether she's been training too. She nods, saying she's been drilling the footwork Helmet showed her. He comments that she seems to love swordsmanship. She flinches in surprise, then quietly admits it's true. She fidgets, struggling to speak, then blurts out an apology for her past behavior, saying she's thought about how rude she was. Dale immediately agrees, blunt as ever. She jolts in shock, mouth hanging open. Then he grins brightly and says he'll forgive her this time. He adds she doesn't need to be so stiff around him. She exhales in relief and nods happily. They stand together in the snowy quiet. Charlotte comments she loves this weather. She can train late into the night, and the cold clears her head instantly. Dale listens quietly. She smiles, realizing someone else understands. He smiles too, soft and calm. A peaceful silence settles between them in the winter air. Charlotte remarks that time moves quickly. From the castle in the distance, Duke Alan and Duchess Elena watch, the Duke noting how much their son has grown. Elena nods, remarking softly that the two fit together almost perfectly. She and her husband share warm smiles, deciding to quietly observe, Elena convinced that guiding her son toward his heart's truth is a mother's role. Time passes. The setting shifts. Narrow streets, worn stone, and hungry eyes. The slums. Dale narrates that Elena regularly offers aid here. Food, supplies, jobs, and that this year he and Charlotte have begun joining her efforts. During one visit, a frantic boy rushes to Charlotte, pleading desperately. His mother is in danger, he cries, begging Charlotte to come. Concerned, she follows. Dale trails them, expression sharpening. The surroundings tighten into cramped alleys. Dale immediately senses the problem. No escort knights, too many blind corners, and a child chosen specifically to lure another child. Suspicion locks in. He spots movement above, a hooded figure on a rooftop. Thieves' Guild, Brandenburg's dogs. So the prey today is Charlotte. The setup feels almost insulting in how obvious it is. The boy hurriedly claims he will fetch his mother, then bolts. Silence falls. Figures shift from the shadows, cloaked shapes circling them. Their green-haired leader sneers, amused at the precious little nobles in territory they shouldn't walk. He tells Dale to step aside. They only need Charlotte. Dale steps forward instead, calm and smiling. A dark, fearless smile. He plants himself in front of Charlotte and repeats his vow. Dale of Saxon protects the daughter of House Orhart. Always. Mock applause from the leader follows. He mocks Dale's bravery, then warns that noble ideals mean nothing here. Pain will teach that lesson. Daggers appear in hands around them. Charlotte leans close, whispering that she left her sword behind. Dale sits down casually, as if bored, and tells her not to worry. Inside, he considers this the perfect chance to test a new trick. Shadows twitch. Assassins leap from above. A violent surge of dark purple mana explodes from Dale's cloak, a swirling storm of living shadow. The thugs stagger back, alarmed. The leader recognizes danger and yells for them to evade. Dale notes the quick judgment. This one must be higher ranked. Even so, one assassin is caught as the shadows spiral, gripping and dragging him. Dale coolly analyzes the effect inside his mind. This new technique came after forming his second mana circle, a way to embed parasitic shadow constructs into the wind itself. A monstrous shadow beast erupts fully into form, jagged fangs, animal muscle, and a hollow hunger swirling in its eyes. It dives into the pinned assassin's body, ripping soul from flesh from the inside. The man's last sound is a broken, choking scream before silence swallows him. The alley freezes. Fear spreads through the thieves' ranks. Shadows coil tighter around Dale, knitting themselves into a towering, brutish, undead form. Glowing violet eyes, claws like carved obsidian, a guttural screech ripping the air. Terror paralyzes the attackers. One whispers undead as dread crawls across their faces like a cold plague. The leader snaps, shouting orders to kill it. Even he sounds unsure, his men advancing with shaking hands. Snarling, he chooses to strike personally. To him, even a duke's brat can't survive a skilled blade. He leaps, splitting into illusory doubles flooding the alley. Green aura flares, daggers burst forward in a deadly hail, aimed at Dale's heart. Dale doesn't flinch. Shadows whip around him like living shields, swatting away the blades as if brushing dust from cloth. The leader's face contorts. Shock, rage, disbelief all twisted together. Before the assassin can regroup, Dale stamps the ground. A bright blue array flares beneath him. He unleashes Ice Buckshot, his twin-barrel spell erupting like magical gunfire. The volley tears through the air, slamming into the leader mid-leap, shredding flesh and armor. He crashes down bleeding, stunned, barely holding consciousness. From behind a wall, Charlotte peeks out, voice trembling as she calls Dale's name. The alley has become a graveyard. Dale stands over the fallen leader, while his undead beast tears into another body, feeding eagerly. The leader staggers upright again. blood running, aura flickering. Dale notes coldly that aura users don't die easily. The thief chokes out a defiant threat, but doesn't finish it. Dale gestures. Shadows explode outward, blades of midnight shredding the thieves in an instant. Limbs fall. Voices stop. His undead servant finishes the last standing body, cracking bone in its jaws, roaring as it devours. Only silence remains. Broken bodies, frost, and hungry shadows. Dale turns away from the carnage, calm once more. He approaches Charlotte, who sits trembling against the wall. He crouches and asks if she's all right. She nods weakly, still shaking. Then, a scream. One last assassin, somehow breathing, runs in blind panic, desperate to escape the nightmare. Dale pays no mind to the fleeing assassin. With lazy precision, he forms an ice round beneath his heel and flicks it forward. The shot blasts through the man's leg, dropping him face first onto the cobblestone. The hulking undead lumbers over, seizing the crippled thief. The man breaks instantly, sobbing, begging, choking on fear. Dale approaches slowly, steady voice carrying more weight than the monster's claws. He commands the creature to return. It dissolves back into his shadow like a beast sinking into black water. The survivor scrambles for a bargain, promising information, everything he knows. Dale pauses, studying him. He asks if the man truly means everything. The thug nods desperately, spilling words, eager to live. Dale decides the trash before him has nothing worth hearing. He lifts a hand. A single shot. Ice shatters bone and skull. Silence. He stands over the corpse and states flatly that he wasn't interested anyway. A final blast of magic wipes away any remaining threat. Charlotte jumps at the violent finish. Dale turns to her, voice calm. He tells her this is the true face of Saxon's land. Cruel when needed, but powerful enough to guard what it claims. He asks if she fears him. She admits some fear, but says it doesn't matter. He did it to protect her. Then she repeats her oath. If House Saxon will be her shield, she will become their sword. She thanks him for giving her a future to aim toward, and vows to grow strong enough to earn it. Dale watches her, thoughts drifting. Part of why he accepted her oath was guilt. Guilt tied to Sir Battle, the knight he killed in his previous life. He realizes Charlotte's pledge carries a weight he didn't expect. Far away, Count Brandenburg rages. A letter burns in his hand. A summons to Saxon Castle to answer for the kidnapping attempt. Even the Emperor's cherished holy sword cannot ignore such an order. Days later, Brandenburg arrives. Duke Saxon sits on his throne, Dale at his side. He greets the Count formally. Brandenburg answers with false politeness, privately sneering at the children before him. The Duke speaks of the uproar in the Empire, the scandal of attempted abduction in his domain. The Count feigns outrage, wondering aloud how he, loyal sword of the Emperor, could be connected to something so disgraceful. The air shifts. Dark mana pours from Duke Saxon like a rising storm. A violent wind sweeps the hall as shadows coil and thicken. Brandenburg's knights panic, their cries swallowed as darkness devours them whole. In moments, the Holy Magdalena Order collapses, screaming into silence. Brandenburg recognizes the spell, horror dawning. Ryle's Tempest, top-tier dark magic. Duke Saxon gives a single command, kneel and remain still. Brandenburg snarls in fury, just moments before the storm closes in. He sits unfazed on his throne. The Duke answers coolly, asking if Brandenburg failed to hear the command the first time, and warning there will not be a second chance. Grinding his teeth, Brandenburg kneels. Rage simmers beneath his skin. Humiliation burns hotter than flame. He never imagined bowing like this. The Duke speaks for all to hear. The Count was summoned in the name of peace, yet should he ever lay a finger on Saxon's children again, the entire Brandenburg bloodline will be erased. His tone stays almost polite as he hopes the Count understands, then mockingly invites him to take a moment and warm himself before leaving. Brandenburg forces out a stiff reply, grateful in word only, then says he cannot remain any longer. The Duke dismisses him without interest. Dale watches quietly, realizing the blow just dealt to one of the Emperor's sacred swords will ignite turmoil across the Empire. Their role, he thinks, will be to cut off the head of the so-called Sword of Sanctity. By the time the capital learns Brandenburg knelt before the Black Duke, Duke Saxon sits in his office with teacher Sepia. He gestures to the corpses on the floor, the remains of the thieves who attacked Dale. He states plainly that Dale killed them. Sepia stares at the bodies, tension tightening her expression. She wonders aloud if her guidance warped him. The Duke insists otherwise, saying her knowledge is needed to channel Dale's potential. He offers her the role of chief advisor to House Saxon. The weight of the offer hits her. It means taking the Saxon crest as her own. He continues, Dale trusts her more than anyone, and shaping him is beyond his power alone. Sepia accepts, understanding that reading Dale's heart and motives is now her responsibility, and the fate of the realm may depend on it. Time rolls forward to Dale's 10th birthday. A glittering banquet hall shines with chandeliers and gilded banners. For the first time, nobles from the Emperor's camp attend. Among them stands Marquis Ulysses, the Crimson Lord, greeting young Lord Dale with courtly words and a practiced smile. Around them, nobles praise the feast, praising Saxon wealth. Dale quietly studies the guests. These are the Imperial Corps, the backbone of the Emperor's faction. Their presence signals a warning. The throne is watching. They will not ignore the humiliation of one of their holy swords. And the Marquis, Dale realizes, is the messenger chosen to deliver that warning. Ulysses looks him over, voice silky, remarking, So this is the famed child of Saxon. He introduces himself as the Crimson Lord, master of the Red Magic Tower, that brutal faction that worships strength and once experimented on Dale in his past life. The Marquis continues, saying he has heard of the Prodigy, the boy who supposedly saved a single night by slaying a horde of orcs at age 9. The rumor hangs in the air, heavy, sharp, dangerous, as nobles watch, waiting to see how the young Saxon heir will answer. He offers polite thanks and hopes Marquis Ulysses enjoys the celebration. Then he turns away, already weary of the endless formal greetings. Birthdays like this always drain him. He would rather be training with Charlotte, but as an official lady-in-waiting, she must maintain appearances, and the daughter of the sword god cannot be seen drilling with blades in public. A sudden scream cuts through the music. A man's harsh voice follows, ordering someone to stay still. Dale heads toward the noise. He finds a weeping maid on the floor, pleading as a heavy-set man looms over her, threatening and grabbing at her while she invokes House Saxon's name for protection. The man snarls that a low-born servant has no right to say the Duke's name, bragging that touching girls is better than enduring a boring banquet, and promising to butcher her if she resists. Dale steps forward, voice ice-cold, demanding to know what the man thinks he's doing. The man, Pietro, startles, then tries to twist the situation, crudely suggesting the young heir has never tasted a woman and offering to teach him. He presses a knife to the trembling maid's neck, calling her just a servant. Dale ignores him, telling the maid, Eve, not to fear. He knows that in a stratified world like this, Pietro never expects a noble to strike a visiting dignitary. That arrogance gives Dale the moment he needs. A sharp burst of ice strikes Pietro and sends him crashing to the ground. Only then does Dale caution himself. Striking an imperial representative is a heavy move. Pietro climbs up in fury, and Dale orders him to kneel and apologize to Miss Eve, stating she is under the protection of House Saxon. Pietro sputters, claiming imperial authority, and arguing that defending a maid against him is practically treason. Dale cuts him off, voice dripping venom. So does the Emperor enjoy assaulting other people's maids? Pietro freezes, shocked at the accusation. Just then, Duke Saxon, Marquis Ulysses, and the nobles arrive. Ulysses studies the scene, amused, calling it an interesting sight. The Duke asks what happened. Dale answers evenly. Pietro attempted to violate a maid of House Saxon. A scoffing noble questions whether Dale would truly shame Sir Pietro over something so minor. Pietro quickly tries to seize the moment, whining to the Duke, but Dale silences him sharply, demanding to know who gave him permission to stand. Then Dale turns to address all present. Nobles of the imperial capital, he reminds them, represent the Emperor himself. So Pietro's attempt to force himself on a servant does not only disgrace House Saxon, it stains the Emperor's name. A hush falls. Marquis Ulysses breaks into laughter, applauding the logic. He declares the young lord's reasoning flawless, and mocks Pietro in front of everyone. How dare someone representing His Majesty dirty royal honor by preying on a maid? Ulysses snaps an order to his attendant, who moves on Pietro like a blade. Pietro screams for mercy as fire erupts across his body, flesh sizzling under the Crimson Lord's attack. Ulysses proclaims the young lord's logic flawless, declaring it the Empire's duty to incinerate vermin who sully imperial honor. With a final, lofty nod to Dale's future, the Marquis closes the scene. When the imperial retinue finally departs, calm returns to Saxon Castle. The next morning, Maid Eve wakes the young lord. Dale thanks her, sensing her hesitation. She shyly admits she is proud to serve him. He notes the awkward deference. He has lived in this world long enough to know what the Saxon name carries, and steels himself to use every tool at his disposal against the Empire. Later, the Duke summons him to the study, remarking that Dale's recent behavior has been unusual. Dale counters by asking whether the Duke had ever considered that, if the otherworldly hero had survived, the Duchy of Saxon would have been the Empire's next target. The Duke reacts with surprise and asks how he could be so certain. Dale hesitates, then explains his reasoning. In his past life, he heard whispers of imperial schemes against House Saxon. He suggests the Empire disposed of the hero to prevent an uncontrollable hunting dog. Even after the hero defeated the Demon King, the Empire left the Demon King's lands steeped in darkness, then forced the Saxons to reclaim and drain those territories, bleeding them dry. Dale concludes that the same pattern of elimination will be aimed at the Saxons themselves. The Duke presses him. How did he learn the hero was set aside? Dale admits it's an inference from inconsistencies in the official account. Honorable death doesn't match the evidence he's read. He argues that if his suspicion holds, imperial justice is merely tyranny. Impressed by the breadth of his son's thought, the Duke asks what House Saxon should do. Dale answers bluntly, they must destroy the Empire. The Duke balks at the enormity of the claim. Dale clarifies he is not calling for immediate rebellion, but for a strategy staged over 10 years. Covertly aid resistance movements, build strength, and exploit the Empire's mounting weaknesses, economic contraction, rising banditry, and the scars of continuous war. He outlines a long-term plan, speaking until sunset, then asks for his father's verdict. The Duke laughs, part incredulous, part filled with pride, calling his son's vision boundless and noting that Dale sees farther than he ever could. He swears to treat him not as a child, but as the heir apparent. Dale senses the moment he'd longed for, the right to wield House Saxon's authority. The Duke leans forward and asks him to declare the decision he will make for their family. He smiles faintly, reminding the Duke that he had promised to treat him as an equal, and formally requests permission to enter the tower trial in Necropolis. The Duke's composure cracks. Necropolis is infamous, a place where even seasoned mages die, and Dale hasn't even finished forming his third circle. Dale responds with calm certainty. He will reach it soon. The Duke reminds him the third circle normally isn't achieved until one's mid-20s. Still, Dale stands firm, stating this choice concerns him, his father, and House Saxon's future. If he survives the trial, he argues, the Duke's standing will strengthen, and his own reputation will become unshakable. The Duke, after a moment of serious thought, entrusts the judgment to his son. A few days later, they arrive in Necropolis. Dale stifles a yawn, realizing he pushed himself too hard. Town residents whisper, some curious if the child prodigy rumors are true, others mocking his tired appearance. Felix, the top academy graduate, sneers loudly, claiming the victory should be his, not some noble brat. At the tower entrance, Elder Iris greets the Duke and Dale. The Duke explains Iris will oversee him through the trial. She leads Dale into a vast chamber filled with 59 other graduates. Iris welcomes the group and explains the first floor challenge, a battle royale theft of life points. Each participant carries a pendant with 1 point and a shield. Destroying another's pendant adds to their total. 3 points means advancement. Artifacts are forbidden. Whispers ripple around Dale. Third circle at his age, a monster, an anomaly. Felix rallies others to target him first. Someone hesitates, worried about striking a Duke's heir, but Felix dismisses it, insisting the exam treats them all equally. Dale hears everything and quietly notes their bravado. The test begins. Dozens of undead lurch to life under their command. Dale remains still, unhurried. Felix sends his corpse soldier to strike first, and freezes when Dale's undead blocks and counters effortlessly. Ice spreads, the corpse stiffens, and shatters cleanly apart. Felix erupts, accusing him of cheating by using water magic. Dale turns to Iris and asks, level-voiced, whether the rules state undead must only be augmented with dark mana. Iris offers no reply. Dale takes the silence as confirmation. He has done nothing wrong. Felix commands his allies to restrain Dale's ice-reinforced corpse while they strike Dale directly. Dale decides that since artifacts are forbidden, he will fight with his own hands. He rushes straight into the swarm of undead, slipping through attacks with smooth footwork and ripping a sword from one of them mid-motion. A burst of black mana surges through his fist as he slams it into one undead. Then he slices through another with casual precision. One participant freezes in disbelief at how easily his undead soldier was cut apart. Felix stares at Dale's blade, convinced it cannot be a normal sword. Iris quietly notes that Dale altered the bone structure inside the corpse blade, boosting its hardness. Dale leaps high, bringing his modified sword down in a brutal overhead strike that shatters another undead. Felix's face drains. His entire force is gone. He cannot accept that a mage is outclassing him with pure sword skill. Dale marches toward the trembling Felix. Felix collapses, begging for mercy. Dale mocks him, reminding him the pendant will keep him from dying anyway. He swings at Felix's head, breaking the pendant and dropping Felix in defeat. Felix calls him a monster as the shard hits the floor. Iris announces Dale as the sole victor, holding all 60 life points. Dale views this place as his first foothold. On the second floor, he faces a flesh golem. Normally, survivors band together here, but he eliminated everyone, so he advances alone. All magic is permitted. He sees this as the perfect moment to complete the third circle and test his limits. The golem lunges. Dale slips past and tears through its arm. He grins and casts a new spell, Accelerated Decay. The massive body rots, collapsing under its own dissolving tissue. Iris watches, recognizing the spell as something unfamiliar. She questions why he chooses corruption over destruction. Dale recalls how biochemical tactics dominated war in his past life and realizes he is now channeling that terror through dark magic. He clears the floor, breaks records, reaches the 10th level, and earns a 4-day rest. The other 59 are granted a rare retest. That night, he stands alone at a fountain. Sepia appears and congratulates him for his performance. He thanks her, crediting her guidance. Then he unexpectedly asks her to accompany him to a festival. She accepts, assuming it is innocent. They walk through the Necropolis festival under moonlight. Dale notes the beauty of the night sky and tries awkwardly to maintain conversation. Still, silence with her never felt heavy. She always trusted him, and because of that, he wanted to stand closer to her than anyone else. He recalls reaching the third circle, stepping into the mind realm. To break through, he triggered mana overflow. Inside that empty mental world, there was nothing, until Sepia's presence reached toward him. She alone illuminated the void. Watching her beside him now, he realizes that is why he wants her. Without hesitation, he tells her he loves her. She freezes, stunned, asking him to repeat it. He restates it. She hugs him gently, saying she is also very fond of him. Days later, on the morning of the 11th floor trial, Dale notes nothing has changed between them. He assumes she must think it was only childish admiration. With that idea pushed aside, he locked his mind on the challenge ahead. Eris laid out the rules. A single magical duel, 1 against 1, with the victor earning passage to the 12th floor. Dale stood opposite Elbert Rosenheim, a third circle master who made it clear through his actions and attitude that mercy would not be given just because Dale was young. Dale quickly assessed the situation. On this floor, his magic was no longer held back. Artifacts were free to be used, which also meant the life point pendant was no longer a sure shield against death. Elbert gathered his mana, fully intending to prove the difference between them. He launched a rain of dark arrows, each one flying straight toward Dale with deadly aim, meant to crush the confidence of a reckless child. Dale showed no panic. He slipped past the attacks with smooth movements, realizing that Elbert had started too early. Still, no one interfered. Those watching wanted to see what Dale could really do. This place judged only ability, Dale concluded inwardly, while silently blaming Elbert's pride. Irritation twisted Elbert's face as he called forth a swarm of violent shadow spawn, binding them with magic that demanded complete obedience. Dale observed the display with clear disinterest. It felt excessive, though he admitted that Elbert's control was beyond that of the weaker opponents he had beaten before. The undead rushed him, but Dale avoided them with ease. Each failure only deepened Elbert's frustration. Elbert grew desperate, convinced that dodging alone could not bring victory, and forced one of his creations into a self-destructive attack, certain the end was near. Then Dale disappeared. Elbert turned in confusion, unable to track where or when it happened. Before he could react, Dale emerged at his back, calm and mocking in posture. Dale revealed a spectral state drawn from the cloak of shadows, making it clear that the real fight had only begun. Around him, nearby shadow beings awakened, stirred by hunger and movement. Dale allowed them to act, restraining them just enough to prevent chaos. They swarmed Elbert in an instant. His screams echoed as the shadows overwhelmed him. When it ended, Dale recalled the creatures, leaving Elbert collapsed and unconscious on the ground. Eris announced Dale as the winner of the first round. When the next opponent was called, that contestant chose to withdraw, valuing survival over pride. From then on, most challengers followed the same path. Dale advanced again and again, without lifting a hand, fighting only once more before moving on. With every trial, he sharpened his control over his 3 magic circles, defeating each floor guardian in steady order as he climbed. Upon reaching the 20th floor, a true threat finally appeared. The Headless Knight stepped forth, a guardian personally crafted by an elder of the Black Tower. Its presence alone carried crushing pressure, unlike anything Dale had faced before. Whispers spread among the observers. Even for someone as gifted as Dale, this foe looked like a real wall. Dale simply gave a faint smile. In his mind, an easy path would only have been boring. The battle began, and the crowd fell into shocked silence. In an abrupt reversal, the Headless Knight dropped to its knees before Dale. Without raising his voice or showing emotion, Dale ordered its end. The Guardian responded at once, turning its own weapon on itself and driving it through its chest, collapsing into ruin. Dale observed the result in silence. The loyalty shown was abnormal. A Guardian abandoning its duty to obey him instead of its true creator was not something that should happen. The display was impressive, but it also crossed a line. He realized he had overreached. Forcing a construct to turn against a Black Tower elder was not power meant to be revealed so openly. Having confirmed his strength, Dale chose to withdraw. As he headed for the exit, confusion spread among the onlookers. They questioned why he would stop instead of climbing higher. Dale considered this calmly. Even if he advanced, there was a limit he could not pass. Beyond that point, the path no longer belonged to monsters or trials, but to something entirely different, a realm outside reason. With that decision, Dale's trial came to an end. His conclusion marked the closing of the Tower trials themselves. Upon returning, the Tower Master and his son were met with a full military salute. Mages of every rank within the Black Tower, from noble bloodlines to the elders, lowered their heads before Duke Alan Saxon and Dale. Dale's achievements became the spark for a slow unification of the northern lands under House Saxon. Knights rallied under his name, fighting with renewed drive while honoring the Saxon banner. With the Tower trial finished, Dale received new orders from his father to lead a campaign against an orc horde. Despite his age, the burden of command was not questioned. His authority as the true heir of the Black Duke was already accepted. Step by step, Dale strengthened control over the northern territories. When he reported back, he stated that 145 orcs had been slain. When asked about losses, he confirmed that only 3 soldiers suffered minor injuries, with no deaths. When the matter of magical protection came up, Dale denied using it. The outcome, he explained, was the result of pure sword skill passed down through House Saxon. The Duke showed clear approval, praising his son without restraint. Sir Helmet, who had watched Dale lead, noted that the young lord now moved like someone already used to commanding a force the size of a full regiment. Dale gave credit to Helmet's guidance, earning acknowledgement from the veteran knight. Helmet pointed out that Dale had absorbed strategy, tactics, swordplay, and the flow of battle itself, stating that a true territorial war was only a matter of time for him. Dale's thoughts lingered on that future conflict. The idea of a domain war did not trouble him. If anything, it stirred anticipation. The scene shifted to Dale training alongside Charlotte. She rushed at him without hesitation, their blades colliding in fast, sharp exchanges, each strike clean and controlled. After the sparring ended, Dale stated that her technique had improved a little. Charlotte reacted with clear irritation, snapping at him for commenting as if it were his place. Dale wondered if he had pushed his teasing too far. She pointed out that he had already reached the 3rd circle and cleared the 20th floor of the Tower trial, drawing praise from everywhere, and questioned whether he was not already tired of being admired. Dale brushed it off and encouraged her, telling her that her strength would continue to grow. He admitted her talent openly, noting that despite being only 10, her ability stood out. Charlotte lashed back, demanding that he stop treating her like a child. Dale answered with an easy smile, remarking that she still was one. She countered immediately that he was no different. Dale laughed it away, claiming that his mind was already that of an adult thanks to memories from a past life. Later, Sir Helmet resumed instruction with Dale and introduced the hammer and anvil tactic. He laid out how cavalry struck and shattered the enemy's flank, while infantry held the line, trapping the opponent in place, just like metal being crushed against an anvil. Dale pointed out that the tactic relied entirely on the strength of the black cavalry, thinking that the core rules of war had never truly changed, no matter the era. He then asked about Charlotte's progress. Helmet confirmed that her training was solid, though she was still far from his own level. Her fundamentals were settling into place, and she would soon move on to aura control and the sword style of House Saxon. Still, Helmet raised a concern. Before he could expand, Dale guessed the issue himself, realizing it was about whether Charlotte's natural style would fit with the family's techniques. The narration clarified that just as mages refined mana through circles, knights shaped it into aura. And much like mages built towers, knights formed orders to protect and pass down their sword arts. The Black Cavalry of House Saxon, tied to the Knight Raven Order, focused on direct power and crushing force. Charlotte's approach favored speed and movement instead. She might one day reach the level of the Seven Swords, but she would never attain the first sword, the highest position among them, once held by her father. Helmet regretted that the Sword of Blossom style had been lost with the fall of the Night Kingdom. That thought left Dale wondering whether the technique was truly gone or simply hidden. As Dale continued strengthening his name through harsh training and constant monster hunts, the moment came for his growth to be tested. A messenger arrived before the Duke with troubling news. Baron Parker, a minor noble, had declared ownership over a copper mine already under Saxon control and formally demanded a domain war. Dale instantly saw the move as reckless. The messenger added that Archduke Brandenburg had agreed to support the Baron in return for a share of the mine and would send the Order of St. Magdalena as military backing. Dale immediately understood Brandenburg's intent. It was not about the mine, but a calculated act of revenge for the humiliation Duke Alan Saxon had once inflicted on him. The moment for conflict had arrived, and Dale understood that it was both a trial and a demand to act. He turned toward his father, steady and unyielding, and formally asked for permission to march with the Knights of House Saxon. He expressed his desire to lead the army himself in the coming war, but the Duke's response cut him off immediately. Duke Alan rejected the request without hesitation. He made it clear that it was far too soon for Dale to carry such responsibility. He cautioned him against careless words, stressing that war between people was nothing like fighting monsters. The rebuke hit hard. The sharp light in Dale's eyes dulled, and his certainty cracked into silent disappointment. Shifting focus, Duke Alan addressed Baron Greenbelt and reassured him that his mines would remain under protection. The Baron bowed again and again, gratitude evident in every movement. Watching from the side, Dale felt the weight of refusal tighten in his chest. That night, he sought out his uncle Helmet and explained everything that had happened. His frustration showed as he admitted how deeply it bothered him. He believed without doubt that he could outperform any commander, yet his father refused to rely on him. Helmet listened without interrupting and advised him to let go of his anger. He reasoned that Duke Alan surely had reasons of his own, even if they felt unfair. Then Helmet revealed something unexpected. He produced a board game, one designed to reflect the structure and flow of war. Dale leaned in at once, catching the meaning behind it without effort. This was not a simple game, but a test of thought and foresight. Helmet was clearly amused by how quickly Dale understood. He explained that mastering this game could sharpen strategic sense far more than endless weapon drills. Before Helmet could finish, Dale grabbed the board, determination flashing across his face. He left immediately, already set on his next move. Helmet called after him in confusion, but Dale did not turn around. Soon after, Dale stood in front of Duke Alan again, the board held tightly in his hands. He demanded to be judged through strategy instead of words, asking for a fair test of ability through the game itself. If he proved superior, he wanted command in the coming war. Duke Alan stared at him, stunned by his persistence. Dale did not back down. His posture was firm, conviction burning in his eyes. He laid out his belief that real war was not decided by strength alone, but by planning, judgment, and control. Helmet stepped in awkwardly, attempting to smooth things over and excuse the young lord's boldness. Duke Alan silenced him with a raised hand. Interest sharpened his expression. He agreed to the challenge under one condition. If Dale lost, He would completely give up the idea of joining the battlefield. The match began. Silence filled the room as father and son took their places across the board. Every move carried weight, thick with pressure and focus. Dale's thoughts moved like a sharpened edge, fast and exact. He measured each strike, traced every possible counter, and read traps before they formed. Before long, the unlikely outcome became real. He claimed victory in 2 of the 3 rounds. Helmut could hardly process what he was seeing. Even with Duke Allen stacking the field in his own favor, stronger pieces and superior placement, Dale still broke through and won. When the last piece was removed, Dale looked up at his father. His manner was steady and firm as he pressed for the Duke to keep his word. Duke Allen released a slow breath, the corner of his mouth lifting just slightly. He wondered when Dale had learned a game like this. Dale offered a casual explanation, saying he had picked up the rules long ago from an old book in the library. The Duke gave a brief nod and let the matter pass. A vow had been made, and it would be kept. Duke Allen confirmed that Dale would take command of the knights in the coming campaign. For a brief moment, Dale struggled to breathe. Pride and excitement surged through him at once. Helmut stood stunned, unable to react. Then the Duke's mood shifted. His voice turned heavy, emphasizing that the name of House Saxon would now rest on Dale alone. There would be no room for failure. In an uncharacteristically gentle pause, Duke Allen checked whether his son truly grasped the burden he was taking on. Dale met his father's eyes without flinching, his resolve firm, making it clear he would not fall short. The Duke's hard expression eased. He dismissed Dale afterward, signaling that it was time to prove the worth of his training. Not long after, far away in Mockburg, the towering castle of Count Brandenburg loomed under a dark, overcast sky. Inside its massive stone halls, anger rang out unchecked. Count Brandenburg's rage echoed as he berated his son, Philip, veins standing out on his brow. He accused him of drinking again and wasting time among the slums, his fury growing louder by the second. Whispers were already spreading that the young heir of House Saxon would soon march at the head of knights, while Brandenburg's own son disgraced himself. The Count demanded to know what Philip had been doing while his rival prepared for war. Philip showed no concern at all. He answered with a lazy grin, brushing off the situation as meaningless. To him, the heir of House Saxon was nothing more than a child, a weak runt barely worth notice. With smug confidence, he made it clear that he intended to crush that brat from House Saxon without effort. He bragged openly, claiming that both he and his father's knights could deal with the problem without effort. That was when Count Brandenburg's restraint finally broke. He slammed his hand onto the table, harder than before, the force shaking goblets and making Philip flinch. His rage boiled over as he hurled Philip's own words back at him in disbelief, branding the Saxon heir as nothing more than a runt and an arrogant child. His eyes burned with fury as he made it clear that the boy Philip mocked was something far beyond his reach. It was a monster whose shadow Philip could not touch even after 100 years of striving. The Count went further, tearing into his son, calling him useless and beneath even that 10-year-old youth. Philip stood stiff. The confidence he had worn cracked apart as the insult cut deep. The storm of anger cooled into a hard, bitter resolve as the Count's thoughts shifted inward. He regretted not acting sooner concerning Charlotte. After a heavy silence, he turned back with cold authority and announced that, in the approaching battle, command of their knights would be placed in Philip's hands. Philip's face lit up at once, excitement rushing through him as he accepted without hesitation. The Count's expression darkened again. He mocked his son sharply, questioning what there was to be happy about, then crushed the moment by making it clear that Philip's role would be a hollow symbol. True authority, he stated, would rest with the adjutant Lord Milvers. Confusion twisted Philip's expression as he tried to understand, but the Count dismissed him entirely and ordered Milvers to escort Philip out at once. Milvers gave a restrained bow. Left alone, Count Brandenburg released a long, angry breath, his thoughts churning with frustration. Given the choice, he would have led the troops himself, yet striking down a child with full force would drag his name through the dirt. His fists tightened as a more unsettling idea settled in his mind. Perhaps this outcome had been planned all along by Duke Saxon. Several days later, the scene shifted to Castle Greenbelt, where tension hung thick in the air. Soldiers and nobles gathered, waiting for the arrival of their new commander, the young heir of House Saxon. Baron Greenbelt stood near the gates, nerves clear as he adjusted his coat time and again while Dale approached. He greeted the boy with a strained smile. his unease showing despite his efforts. Behind him, quiet murmurs spread through the crowd. Some whispered in disbelief, unable to accept that their commander was just a child. One scoffed softly, doubting whether the boy could even swing a sword. Another remarked that the child was said to be a prodigy, and that underestimating him might be a mistake. Low laughter and uncertainty mixed together. Baron Greenbelt forced himself to stay composed, praising Dale by saying that his presence alone brought relief, that seeing him inspired belief and hope for victory. Dale acknowledged the words with calm gratitude, his expression steady. Even so, hidden beneath the Baron's polite manner, doubt still remained. Could someone that young truly command soldiers on a battlefield? Even with the black cavalry at his back, Dale was still only 10 years old, far younger than anyone expected for such responsibility. Summoning his nerve, Baron Greenbelt proposed escorting Dale to a banquet arranged in his honor, noting that the kitchen staff had worked for hours to prepare it. Dale rejected the idea at once, his refusal calm and firm, making it clear there was no time to spare. The Baron hesitated, caught off guard, and unsure of what the young lord intended. Without warning, Dale drew his sword and leveled it toward Baron Greenbelt. Despite the light smile on his face, the intent behind the gesture was sharp and direct. Before anything else, Dale intended to examine the state of the troops. His eyes moved across the gathered soldiers. In a steady, commanding manner, he demanded to know who among them was the strongest. The Baron began to tremble, lost and uncertain how to respond. Dale pressed the question again, his tone even but unyielding, asking who stood at the top of the Baron's forces. Frozen by fear, the Baron remained silent. At that moment, a red-haired soldier stepped forward. He claimed that no one present could defeat him. Inside, however, his thoughts were full of contempt. To him, this was nothing but a spoiled noble child wielding authority given by birth alone, swinging a sword as if he owned the place. He resolved to teach the boy a lesson himself. The soldier jabbed his thumb toward his own chest and openly declared himself the strongest. Dale caught the meaning behind the man's words immediately. Baron Greenbelt, on the other hand, felt the blood drain from his body. One of his own knights was openly disrespecting a child from a high noble house who had been placed in full command. Dale calmly lowered his sword. A brief, almost amused laugh escaped him as he spoke plainly about the situation. He made it clear that everyone present doubted his ability, believing he was nothing more than a 10-year-old suddenly handed control of an important battle without reason. Driving his sword into the ground, Dale spread his arms toward the Baron. Doubt, he explained, went both ways. Just as they questioned him, he did not believe the knights trusted their own strength, and in his view, there was only one way to remove doubt: through steel. With a dark edge to his expression, Dale pointed out the so-called strongest knight the Baron seemed so proud of. The man was barely sober, barely standing on discipline alone. There was no need for questioning. The knight's conduct already proved Dale's concerns. The red-haired soldier snapped. Rage surged through him as he drew his blade and aimed it directly at Dale. His pride as a knight burned hot, and he declared his intent to prove the worth of the Baron's steel through combat, staking his honor on it. Dale was openly entertained by the turn of events. At that point, he already knew the clash would not be dull. Soon after, Dale and Harbuck stood opposite one another, both fully ready to fight. The surrounding knights closed in around them, forming a tight ring that left no room to retreat. Dale studied Harbuck and calmly brought up that rumors about his sword had likely reached him. Harbuck answered with a short laugh, making it clear that he was aware of the strange blade Dale carried. Dale's expression tightened slightly as he questioned the source of such bold confidence. He wondered whether Harbuck truly believed his arms carried overwhelming strength. Harbuck gave no reply. Instead, he drew his blade and attacked first. Dale reacted at once, stopping the strike with shadow magic. Harbuck pressed on without pause, swinging again and again with raw force. Each attack was met cleanly, Dale blocking every blow with exact timing. As the exchange continued, Dale watched closely. Harbuck's sword carried no aura. That detail stood out. Aura blades were reserved for high-ranking knights, yet despite the limit, Harbuck fought with all he had. Dale acknowledged that effort at least. With that thought, Dale shifted gears and struck back using controlled shadow tactics. Harbuck failed to understand what he was facing. The movements and angles were unnatural. Still, he tried cutting through the shadows by force alone. Confusion crept in. He couldn't grasp why Dale's attacks kept coming, or why his own artificial aura refused to respond. Dale continued advancing without hesitation. In his eyes, Harbuck's skill level was nothing special. Before that thought fully settled, the fight ended. Harbuck suddenly crumpled to the ground. Baron Greenbelt's eyes flew open in shock. He rushed forward, calling out in alarm as he dropped to his knees beside the fallen knight. Panic set in as he demanded to know what had happened and what Dale had done. Even Dale was caught off guard. He questioned how the knight could fall so easily. The Baron, still shaken, accused the young lord of harming one of their most important fighters right before a major battle. Dale responded with controlled politeness, addressing the Baron directly. He made it clear that accusations should wait until the situation was understood. If that level of strength was all Harbuck possessed, then he would only slow them down once the battle began. He ended by questioning whether the Baron's true intention was to let House Saxon handle all the fighting while others stood back and watched. The Baron went rigid, unease plain on his face. Dale moved closer, blade leveled forward. He questioned whether this man truly counted as one of the Baron's key knights, someone meant to strengthen the force rather than weaken it. Raising his sword slightly, Dale made his stance clear. House Saxon would never hesitate to shield Greenbelt's domain, but it would not tolerate negligence in return. Until the battle reached its end, the duchy's knights would act as a blade in service, but only for a lord who upheld his responsibility. Then his voice rang out across the camp, firm and absolute. He forced the Baron to choose whether to stand with him or fall due to his own weakness. At those words, every soldier present dropped to one knee, offering their loyalty without hesitation. The scene shifted elsewhere, to Duchess Elena, overcome with grief as she cried for her son, devastated that he had gone forward alone. Duke Alan Saxon stayed by her side, calming her gently. He reassured her that there was no reason for fear, reminding her that their son possessed far greater potential than she realized. As long as Dale continued to grow, he would rise above every concern. One day, he would stand above the world itself. The focus returned to Dale. He stood in silence, deep in thought. He acknowledged inwardly that ignorance left no hope. Right now, he was little more than a frog trapped in a well, only beginning to grasp how strange and vast this world truly was. His thoughts drifted to the man of holy authority. That figure must have acted after understanding the condition of this land. If that was true, then Dale knew he had to prepare a plan of his own. The next day, morning broke outside the castle, where Dale supervised training for the entire force. Harbuck, still not fully recovered, struggled to drag a huge stone. Before long, his strength gave out and he collapsed in exhaustion. Another knight urged him to continue, but Harbuck had already reached his limit. Dale watched from a raised platform nearby, shaped almost like a throne. Sir Bale stood at his right side, respectful and still. On the other side, a knight harshly berated Harbuck for failing such basic training. Harbuck attempted to defend himself, but the scolding knight refused to hear it. Dale turned his attention to Sir Bale and pointed out calmly that nothing was being done to stop this. Sir Bale gave a slight bow in response. Dale then stated that Baron Greenbelt's knight needed to be informed. Dale made it clear that everything, beginning with basic stamina training, showed they were entirely unfit for real combat. Sir Bale agreed at once. Dale then gave new instructions. A messenger was to be sent into Baron Parker's territory to propose negotiations. Sir Bale reacted with visible surprise at the order. The idea of negotiations at this stage caught him off guard. Dale showed quiet amusement. He had no intention of accepting peace terms that would humiliate them. There was simply someone he wanted to meet before the fighting began. Several days later, a negotiation camp was set up along the tent's border separating the two baronies. Inside one of the central tents, Dale sat calmly in a chair while his knight remained at his side in silence. Resting his interlocked fingers beneath his chin, Dale examined the situation with focused thought. If events continued on the same path, the Order of St. Magdalena, already strained by a distant campaign and limited supplies, would soon be pushed into a reckless all-or-nothing move. At the same time, Dale understood that Baron Parker's own knights were not an enemy to dismiss lightly. While he was absorbed in these thoughts, his knight informed him that Lord Philip had entered the tent. The moment Dale saw the group, the power structure became obvious. Philip, the eldest son of Count Brandenburg, was little more than a figure on display. The true authority stood with the veteran commander positioned behind him. Philip took a seat, and Dale offered a courteous greeting. Philip answered with a mocking grin, suggesting that the conflict had grown beyond control and that Dale's push for talks was proof of fear. Dale saw through the bait and calmly countered the idea, suggesting that the same fear might be the reason Philip had agreed to come as well. Philip quickly rejected the notion, insisting that fear had nothing to do with his presence. Before he could go further, Dale cut him off and began to clarify his point. Dale made it clear that Philip had never been the one he was speaking to in the first place. His words had been aimed at the real commander standing behind him. Philip, in Dale's eyes, was nothing more than a symbol, placed on the battlefield without any real power. Sir Milvis froze in brief shock. Very few people, even among their own side, knew that Count Brandenburg saw Philip as a failure with no talent. Yet Dale spoke as if this hidden truth was common knowledge. Dale continued, pointing out that Philip should understand better than anyone what it felt like to be distrusted by his own father. Sir Milvis immediately understood what Dale was trying to do. He declared that the talks should end at once, and told Philip there was no reason to remain. Philip, however, was already seething. Dale's remarks had cut deep. Dale pressed further, noting that Philip acted as though he needed approval just to speak. The way he followed a subordinate's lead made him look more like a servant than the heir of a noble house. The insult only fueled Philip's rage. Calm as ever, Dale added that Philip barely resembled the first son of a count, and instead looked like a master being dragged along by his own servant. Sir Milvis tried again to intervene, urging Philip to keep control. He clearly saw Dale's aim: shatter their command structure and break their unity before the battle even began. Philip ignored the warning and lashed out in anger. Dale leaned back with ease, watching their internal collapse with quiet interest. In his mind, Philip was nothing more than a puppet. Dale wondered who truly pulled his strings, the Holy Swordsman or Sir Milvis, since Philip's actions were dictated entirely by others. At that moment, Dale knew the plan had worked. He had never come to bargain. The goal had always been to fracture their chain of command. Dale then ordered the knight at his side to step outside. The knight complied without a word and left the tent. With that, only Dale and Philip remained in the dim interior. Dale slowly placed both hands flat on the table, steady and intentional, signaling that the real exchange was about to begin. With calm authority, he made it clear that now that no one else was present, they could speak as true commanders, those who carried full responsibility for the battlefield's outcome. Philip, still shaking with anger, struggled to steady himself. His jaw was tight, his breathing rough, but he forced a sharp nod. Before he could fully regain control, Sir Milvis attempted one final warning. He reminded Philip of Dale's strategy and urged caution, telling him not to be drawn in by provocation. Philip turned on him with a burning stare, filled with pride and wounded arrogance. He coldly reminded Milvis who held supreme command. The words hit harder than the glare. For a brief moment, the veteran commander felt a chill. No matter Philip's flaws, he was still the son of Count Brandenburg, and dealing with the eldest son of House Saxon now rested solely on Milvis's shoulders. Yet with every passing second, it became clear that Dale had been guiding them from the start. Accepting that the situation was beyond saving, Sir Milvis lowered his head slightly and followed Philip's order without objection. He exited the tent in silence, the fabric falling closed behind him and leaving Philip fully exposed before Dale. Once alone, Dale offered a polite thanks to Lord Philip for agreeing to a private exchange. There was a quiet weight in Dale's tone, less gratitude and more control, as he calmly drew Philip's attention back to the true reason the negotiation had been forced in the first place. Philip, torn between anger and uncertainty, managed to ask whether Dale had any concrete demands, either for continued fighting or for a possible withdrawal. Dale leaned in, planting both hands flat on the table. His voice stayed steady, his expression firm with total confidence. He laid out a single condition. If the Knights of St. Magdalena withdrew from the battlefield at once, House Saxon would see to it that they received all supplies needed for a safe return. Philip's temper snapped almost immediately. He slammed his hands down so hard the table shook, dismissing the proposal as meaningless and accusing Dale of treating a serious matter like a child's game. Dale remained unmoved by the display. Calm and measured, he offered an apology for earlier ridicule, openly admitting that he had provoked Philip on purpose. Then his explanation turned cold and precise. If Philip refused to pull back, once the battle started, thousands of his knights would die. Those who survived would be captured. When word spread, all the blame, shame, and disgrace would land squarely on Philip. Not on Sir Milvis, not on any subordinate, on Philip alone. Dale's face hardened further as he made it clear that such a disaster would not stop there. Even Count Brandenburg's name would suffer, and the honor of their entire house would be dragged through the dirt. The weight of those words settled heavily on Philip, squeezing his chest. For the first time since entering the tent, he fully grasped how severe the outcome could be. Dale pressed on without mercy, stressing that this was Philip's last chance to protect more than his own name. It was his final chance to guard his family's legacy. Philip forced an uneasy, twisted smile. He admitted that Sir Milva's had been right all along. Dale's true goal was to shame him and break his confidence. Dale rested his chin on his folded fingers, answering with quiet control. He claimed he was simply stating facts. This was Philip's final opportunity, and despite the act, Philip did not look nearly as confident as he pretended. Dale ended by laying out one last, brutal truth. If defeat came, responsibility would not fall on Sir Milva's. It would rest entirely on Philip's shoulders as the officially appointed Supreme Commander. Every accusation, every failure, every mark on their reputation would strike Count Brandenburg's eldest son directly. Philip struggled to maintain a stiff, fabricated smile, trying to salvage some dignity. He claimed Dale would not stay calm for long, and that he would prove in front of everyone who truly commanded the battlefield. Dale stayed composed, responding that confidence was fine, as long as Philip could keep it when the next stage began. With the tense talks finished, the focus shifted to Baron Greenbelt's castle. Some time had passed since the negotiation. High above, on the rooftop of the opposing fortress, Sir Milva's stood upright with several of his knights, surveying the land spread out below. One of the knights carefully watched the Greenbelt estate through a spyglass, tracking every movement from afar. Sir Milva's demanded a status update, and the knight reported that House Saxon's main force was finally on the move, fully armed and ready for battle. The report stirred Milva's memory. Dale's calm face during the negotiations resurfaced in his mind, an expression that refused to fade. Despite his age, the boy had shown no trace of fear or doubt. There had been no hesitation in his posture or words. That composure alone proved Dale was no novice. His experience and restraint had been obvious in every small action. Milva's muttered that Dale's youth could still be turned into an advantage. He drew his sword in a sharp motion, his face darkening as he made his intent clear to those around him. He planned to be the one who would force that child to learn a painful lesson. The surrounding knights erupted in unison, their voices rising as they eagerly echoed the sentiment, fully convinced they would crush the young commander. Far away, near the barren outskirts of Greenbelt's castle, one of Dale's knights came running toward him, breath heavy and face drained of color. He reported that Sir Milva's main force had begun advancing toward their position. Dale showed no reaction beyond a quiet nod, as if the news carried no pressure at all. He lifted his sword and directed it toward his assembled knights, signaling that the moment had arrived for House Saxon to live up to its name. This battle, he made clear, would prove that their bloodline deserved every ounce of reputation it carried. The knights answered with a fierce roar, repeating the resolve of their young commander without the slightest hesitation, their will solid and unbroken.